Hello, my name is Susan Liu. I was a junior architecture student last year at ASU. First, I want to say thank you for the class of 77 alumni for giving me this amazing opportunity to travel in North Europe. The purpose of this trip is to find the connection between sustainability, architecture, and food. I have tried thinking of topics like cultural heritage, tourism, or history of architecture, but other than architecture design, nothing can compare with my passion of sustainability and food. Also, I love traveling, so I just ask myself, why don't I put everything I love together to be my travel topics? That's how I find I want to discover more about a word that's becoming popular nowadays called sustainable restaurants. Most of these kind of restaurants have a subtle relationship with green architecture too. This is the calendar of my travel for 2 weeks. 1 week for Amsterdam in the Netherlands and another week for Copenhagen in Denmark. These two cities can be the world's most sustainable cities, where also I can confirm to visit projects or sustainable restaurant for my research topic. Okay, now let's start the journey. I arrived in Amsterdam on May 26th around noontime. To make sure I won't get lost, I spent around 1 hour at the tourist center to purchase all kinds of map, transportation passes, and guidebooks. I think this is an important step if you are going to a new city by yourself, whether you did the research or not. I visited the Crystal House, which is a storefront that uses glass blocks made by recycled glasses. Oh, and this is a store shoes on the way. Also, there were street artists playing music. Later, I went to the Stedelijk Museum and did a sketch outside at the cafe. Next, I spent half of my day at Café de Cavell. The Cavell is a unique recreation project which transformed an old abandoned shipyard to a cafe and rentable office spaces in boat houses. Café de Cavell use organic ingredients and reserve vegetables for all food and drinks they serve. Not only the self-sufficient food serving system is sustainable, but also architecturally the cafe was built with old mooring posts. I met great people here that they were willing to share everything they know to answer my question about the place and also tell me how they feel about Café de Cavell. Then I arrived at NDSM. NDSM is a plaza with adaptive reuse projects. There are 2 restaurants, but the most impressive project for me is actually the Crane Hotel. Restaurant Black is built with old shipping containers, but after seeing so many visitors at this place, I realized that finding a balance between business and sustainability isn't that easy at all. On the third day, I went to Van Gogh Museum in the morning and Rijksmuseum in the afternoon. One thing I'm really happy with is I bought the ticket advance, so I didn't waste 3 hours staying in lines. There's excitement seeing Van Gogh's real work. I really like the sunflower. It's probably my favorite work. But Rijksmuseum is the most amazing museum I've ever seen. The building scale, architecture design, and amount of exhibitions are nothing I've ever seen before in one museum. There's even a professional audio tour for only the architecture of the museum. In the evening, I went to the annual festival in Amsterdam called Rolling Kitchen in Westerpark. I had great time experiencing another eating culture of this country, and those food trucks actually made me homesick for a little bit because there were night market back in Taiwan.
My day ended with a special time meeting Kat and her dog Nora.
Next morning, I met Kat at Saparti Park, and she gave me a small tour around the area. She brought me to the local flower market, and we also met her friend who sells her own organic handmade dessert. Kat told me that a lot of people will buy fresh flower every Saturday from the market in order to decorate their house. My lunch at Restaurant Decas was fantastic, but the best time was the interview with the founder, Gertjan Hockman. Except the beautiful greenhouse farm and history of the restaurant, the best part of the conversation is actually hearing that running this restaurant is a dream come true for Gert. He was super nice and even showed me the kitchen and let me take pictures of it.
The restaurant building was used as nursery since 1926, and now it's a sustainable restaurant with its own greenhouse and organic farm. On the fifth day, I decided to leave Amsterdam a little bit, so I went to Zaanstad. It is a windmill village north of Amsterdam. This is a very interesting village that you can learn about history, windmill, and Dutch culture. The entire neighborhood is actually an adaptive reuse project. It was a village that was damaged during war, but later on the government put in efforts to build the whole village according to the old feature and open it up to tourism. I went back to Amsterdam in the evening for my reservation at Restaurant in Stock, which is another project I found. What's amazing about this restaurant is all ingredients they use are rescued food from the grocery store, completely safe and sustainable. May 30th is the day for Rotterdam. Just look at this train station. As soon as I arrived in Rotterdam, I can sense that it is a different place. And I think biking is the best way to tour around the city, and you will find countless of surprises on the way. Markthal is a stunning housing project combined with a market. I heard that all the houses were sold out before the construction is even finished. Or if you're looking for some not boring houses, go to the Cube House. One reason that Rotterdam have so many interesting design and crazy buildings is because back in the time of World War II, this city is almost completely demolished by Germans. That's why they can fit in all kinds of new building or new design. People might say Rotterdam is an odd city regarding to people and buildings. But for me, I love it. I love how the city is so different. For me, it's like a city of imagination. Maybe just because I'm a weird person too. It's the month of June. June 1st is my last day in Amsterdam. So I want to take it a little bit easy. Plus, I'm going to a concert at night. I went to the Edge, which is the most sustainable office building. You can see their solar panels cover almost the entire facade on different angles of the building. Later on, I went and grabbed a coffee with Kat and her friend Nina, then go to the Nemo Science Museum. It is the best project I've seen to represent interaction so well, whether on the architecture design or the arrange of the exhibition. At night, I was late for the concert for over an hour. But luckily, someone helped me after the concert and brought me to the back door. The performers actually came out from the back door and we get to take a picture with them. But why I was late for the concert? It was because I was robbed on the way back to the apartment right before the concert. Luckily, I didn't get anything stolen, but I fell and have a few scratches on my back and also hit my head. But the most annoying is I sprained my ankle. It swelled really bad. And to take care of all this situation, it took me an hour. However, I met two angels, Katharina and her mom Nancy, after the concert. They helped me when I can only hop on one foot and even call a taxi for me to go back to my apartment. Next day, I have to fly from Amsterdam to Copenhagen with my swollen right foot. When I arrived in Copenhagen, I met another great person, Chris, who works in the airport. He felt really bad for me and decided to help me outside from his job. After I grabbed a dinner and settled everything down, it was 9 p.m. at night, so I decided to just go to bed early and then have everything planned out better the next few days. The second day in Copenhagen has a great start. I met up with Brian, Professor Cook, and the ASU Study Abroad group. I went and visited Talent 8 with the group. It is a green roof housing project by a big architect. Later, I went to the Maritime Museum with Brian. I'm glad he was there to help me because I was on crunches whole day. Maritime Museum is an incredible adaptive reuse project that's built underground based on an old dock. You can see the big hole that's where they used to park the giant ship. There's exhibition and also a cafe inside the museum. Next to the museum underground, there's also shipping containers used as little shops or food vendors. After Maritime Museum, we went to another project by big architect, which is the Super Klein Park. But how Brian and I both feel about the area is not very safe, so we decided to leave as soon as we toured the park. On the train, guess what happened? My phone was gone. I was really shocked and confused, not only because my phone disappeared, but it was stolen inside a zipped pocket under some of my attention. So I really don't know how that happened. I know I shouldn't let anything negative to bring down my excitement for the trip, but I have to be honest, it was frustrated dealing with a situation like this. So the next day, I give myself a little break. I slow down my pace for the trip and I scheduled 2 boat tour trips around the city. One way to calm myself down and find back the good mood for the rest of my day in Copenhagen. Another reason is to let my foot rest. After resting for a day, I find my excitement for an architecture trip in Copenhagen. I took the MRT and rent a bike to go south of Copenhagen for some modern architecture tour. This included very impressive housing, the VM housing with the triangle sticking out balcony, and the DR Bride Center, the Bella Center, and I think my favorite is the Titan dormitory. After biking around the countryside and the special modern housing, I went back to the city center to meet the person I have dreamed to meet since I was a kid. Part of that world. And I was actually really surprised that it was not that crowded as I thought around the statue. After taking a lot of pictures with the mermaid, I start heading back and past the Star-shaped park, which is a very interesting old monument. Next day in the morning, I take the early train to Louisiana Museum. In my opinion, it's an extraordinary building that's built inside the forest. I will describe it as a structure perfectly blend in the environment, that you couldn't even take a picture of the whole building. It is also my goal to design something or a building that's combined or work with the nature instead of trying to be special or completely separate by the area around. After Louisiana Museum, I went back to the city center and go to the Paper Island. Paper Island is a old storage space. We used to be market area with food trucks and vendors. I also met Chris there. Mainly I want to return crunches to him, and also he was really nice to give me a small tour around Copenhagen. The very special place he brought me to is Christiania. Christiania is the center of secondary culture in Copenhagen, which has a huge diversity from the rest of the city. To be honest, I would never dare to visit places like this by myself. So I'm really grateful for Chris to bring me here and have an experience with a total different culture of Copenhagen. I finally went to the major location for my research topic this time. Oostergrow is an organic rooftop garden that's on top of an old car auction. This place had completely blown my mind. Not just the roof garden is beautifully maintained in a very efficient system, the people I've met are amazing as well. This is Livia. She's one of the co-founder of Oostergrow, and the interview conversations with her were just very knowledgeable and entertaining. I was also really fortunate to be able to participate their first harvest. I also met Kalai and Matt. Oostergrow is really an amazing place, and I highly suggest you guys, if you ever come to Copenhagen, go to Oostergrow. June 8th is my last day of traveling in Copenhagen and on this trip. 3 shipping containers, which inside the container there are coffee grains in the bag to grow mushrooms. These mushrooms are completely organic, and I can see this is a perfect fit for me to say that sustainable food or farming system can combine with sustainable architecture like perfectly. I went to Malmö, Sweden for a half-day trip with Kalai. I really appreciate that Kalai invited me to tag along on the trip. Green housing is a housing project which require all residents to grow food in their units, mostly on the balcony. Aporia is another project which is a shopping mall with green roof design. After Aporia, Kalai went back to Copenhagen and I stayed to visit Turning Torso. The last thing I do before I go back to the apartment is to show my appreciation to all these great people I met at Oostergrow. So I went back to Copenhagen and sent a little thank you card to Livia, Kalai, and Matt. What I learned from this trip is countless, but to give a conclusion, food and architecture, when you first think of it, you probably will be confused like why they are put together. I was really nervous at the beginning about what if I can't find the connection between food and architecture, since I also don't have much knowledge about it. But after this trip, I can tell you, connections between sustainability, architecture, and food can be anywhere in your life. You might not notice when you first saw me visiting these 2 cities, but from my understanding, when you go deeper to have conversation with the city and with the people, you'll discover that sustainability is part of their life. It's not something they promote on the big screen or on TV. It's something that's already in how they live their daily life. At the end, I want to give my most honorable and biggest appreciation to class of 77 alumni. None of the story will start without your support and encouragement. And thank you for every friend, founder, teacher, or stranger who ever gives me a hand when I was struggling. You are the reason I can still be here telling the story to everyone. Thank you for your patience of watching this video. If you want to know more detail about the trip, there's a link of my blog below. Thank you very much.